Yo, what's up? This is Jay Dennis, and we're back with a Ranked and Reviewed. This evening we're doing a band that I've been listening to for quite a while now, called Escape the Fate. Sorry, this intro was weird. Anyway, so no new albums to speak of or anything like that, but it's a band I've been wanting to do for a little while. 7 albums, dating from 2006 up until last year, 2021. And 6 of those albums have Craig Mabbitt, and then their first album has Ronnie Radke. So we got 2 different vocalists and a pretty similar style amongst the entire discography, but there are some differences. There are some varying genre inclusions and maybe a little bit of experimentation. So this is probably like one of the quickest rankings I've ever done, so I'm actually going to try to make the video a little bit quicker. Basically it's broken down into their bottom 3 albums and then their top 4 albums, but I've been listening to this band since my senior year of high school, so think 2008, 2009. Got a lot of nostalgia value for probably like their first 4 albums, actually. So I have gotten acquainted with their last 3, though. And if you know how any of my ranked and reviews go, you're probably going to know what this ranking is going to look like already. But sometimes certain bands surprise me. Albums that I wasn't once familiar with somehow end up creeping towards the top. So is that going to happen with this particular band? Wait and see. I will go through my ranking and then do the top 10 songs at the end. But this is a fun band. I listened to them for a long time, like I've said, and it was great getting back into them and getting reacquainted and refamiliar and figuring out some new songs that I've never heard before. So, like I said, some albums I've listened to 100 times, others I've only listened to 3 or 4 times, but I know damn well that I'm confident in this ranking, so let's go ahead and get into it. At the bottom spot, we have their latest album, Chemical Warfare. Now, there are like 4 solid tracks on here, 4 out of 12. There are 4 songs that I actually really enjoy and really like listening to. You got Not My Problem, which is catchy. You got Travis Barker featured on the drums, so that sounds pretty awesome. Easily the best song on the album. You got great guitar work and other features in a song like Demons, Hand Grenade, Ashes. That's like 3 great tracks in a row towards the end of the album. But the reason why this album sits at the bottom, aside from some of the weird experimentation, like a little too much poppiness, pop vocal effects, and like that weird like whoa and like baby sound effects on a few sounds, they're still largely doing like most of the sounds that they normally do here, but they just kind of veered off a little into the pop section a little too much for my taste. But if they'd maintained the quality of those 4 tracks I just mentioned, this could have been a much higher placed album. But some of their worst materials on this album, Unbreakable and My Gravity are 2 of their worst songs, hands down. A lot of Escape the Fate's material is like an 8 out of 10 or higher. There are quite a few songs that are in the 7 range, but 2 of their 6, okay. Like, not mediocre, but not really good. Just okay. 2 of those songs are on this album, that's why it drags it down to the bottom. Usually if I like a band, it's hard for me to... The only band that I gave really trash ratings to on particular songs, just a particular couple songs, was Fall Out Boy. So if you actually want to hear me be critical, go watch that video of me ranking and reviewing Fall Out Boy's albums, which there are fucking albums I love from them. Anyway, back to Escape the Fate. Yeah, so Chemical Warfare, easily at the bottom, but there are a handful of tracks on there that I actually really do like, but some of their weakest materials on this album, and then a lot of other forgettable tracks, so I would just never listen to this album from front to back again. I can see why most people gave this album poor ratings. Next up at the number 6 spot, we have I Am Human, which is the album before Chemical Warfare, their 6th album. I do like the guitar work in the opening track, Beautifully Tragic. And I love this song, I Will Make It Up to You. It's got that mid-2000s alternative sound, which I am notorious for loving. But beyond that, really no other great tracks to speak of. So it's only marginally better than Chemical Warfare. There's just no mediocre or okay tracks. Every track is like at least a little good. Don't much care for Empire or Riot, but songs like Resistance, maybe Broken Heart. Broken Heart kind of sounds like it's ripping off Papa Roach's song Help. Bleed for Me and Do You Love Me, If Only. All those songs are, good. But just not a whole lot of great material on here, so only marginally better than Chemical Warfare. Don't really have a lot more to say about it. At the number 5 spot, we have Hate Me. So that's their 5th album. So 7, 6, 5 are their 7th, 6th, and 5th albums. Yeah, so that is the bottom 3 that we were talking about are their last 3 albums. Hate Me, much like I Am Human over Chemical Warfare, just a little marginally better. My 2 favorite tracks were The Terrible Children, or Les Enfants Terribles, however the fuck you say it. I actually really enjoy the heaviness of that track. There's not a whole lot of Craig Mabbitt screaming, or there's not a whole lot of heavy material in their last 3 albums, so that's part of what gets docked from that. Craig Mabbitt has a great scream. I've always loved his scream, so to not hear it so much recently, even though he's also a good singer, to hear it on Les Enfants Terribles, The Terrible Children, it was refreshing to hear. I think it's also in Drop A also, so that heavier side. The title track's okay, and like I said, Break Me Down, I think they actually had members of Papa Roach help them write that song, so it's definitely got a little bit of that mid-2000s, early 2010s, I guess, alternative metal or alternative rock, radio rock sound. Kind of like a power ballad, maybe a little bit. Excuse me! So yeah, Hate Me, don't have a lot to say about that one either. Their last 3 albums, their bottom 3 albums, I really would never go back and listen to any of these albums again from start to finish, but I did dig out like 5 or 6 tracks that I actually really enjoyed, and I'm glad that I got acquainted with. But let's get into the higher quality material now. Wait, maybe not yet. Maybe it's bottom 4, top 3. So the number 4 spot actually goes to their self-titled album from 2010, Escape the Fate. This, along with the other 3 albums, all got below an 8 out of 10. So they're all still good or somewhat good, or maybe like a C or a C+. But Self-Titled actually has some sentimental value to me. I actually did listen to this album quite a bit when it had come out, but I thought it was a pretty big departure from their previous work. The best, they blow their load on this album with the first 2 songs. You have Massacre and Issues, which are 2 songs that I love and have always enjoyed. But then you drop the quality tremendously with Zombie Dance. I never liked that song, not even back then. Gorgeous Nightmare is a catchy song that I enjoy. Middle of the album's kind of boring. City of Sin, Day of Reckoning, Lost in Dreams, not really anything to write home about there. Prepare Your Weapon, they finally get like a little heavy and thrashy again, so that sounds great. But then yeah, so 4 or 5 solid tracks, which make this album marginally better than Hate Me, but there's a little bit more sentimental value there with a few of those tracks that I still very much enjoy. The intro leads beautifully in the Massacre. I just love that Drop A. It's one of the heaviest songs Escape the Fate's ever written. And then Issues, even though it's kind of generic radio butt rock sounding stuff, I actually just really love the C minor scale, the way it's used in there. I love the chorus, even though it's like really simple. It's executed well in my opinion. Yeah, so let's get into the top 3 now. These are like actually great albums. At the number 3 spot, we have Ungrateful, their 4th album from 2013. I had this album when it came out at the time. I got a lot of sentimental value to this album. I would always listen to it when I was driving to like my first bartending job. There's just a lot of great material on here. Definitely a great return to form compared to their self-titled album. Brought back some of the heavy, doubled down on some of the catchier material, and kind of ditched the theatrical shit that they brought with self-titled. I don't really like a whole lot of the gothic theatrical stuff that they kind of do sometimes. And again, part of the reason why there's such a huge quality difference, even a sound difference, is just because, a lot of bandmate changes, which I'll get into maybe a little bit more on the next ones. But Ungrateful, you still got, I think his name's Monty Money or whatever. I think he's still playing guitar on this album. So pretty much one of their last best albums. The new guitarist on the newer albums, he's not a bad guitar player. He sounds really good, actually. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't have that same charm or that same. I don't know how to describe it. But Ungrateful, I've always enjoyed it. The opening track, which is the title track, is solid. Live Fast, Die Beautiful, which I think is played in fucking drop G. I've always loved that song. Great chorus, great build-up, great lyrics, great breakdown. Just great Escape the Fate. Going back and forth between the melodic and the heavy just beautifully. One of my favorite songs is also on this album, Desire. God, that song kicks ass. I love that Escape the Fate can successfully twist in some of those like 80s power anthem sounds and just that loud crushing guitar with great solos, great lead work is present in songs like Desire. I don't know why, but their top played song on Spotify is One for the Money, which is a solid track, but what the fuck? It's not one of their best songs, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a fan favorite. I'm just not into it. But it is one of the better songs on the album, believe it or not. Only songs that I can really skip are Picture Perfect, Risk It All, and the closing track, Fire It Up. Other than that, all great tracks. I like The Darkness of Chemical Love. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, Ungrateful at the number 3 spot, but let's go ahead and get into the really high tier stuff. All right, so we're down to our last 2 albums, and as you can see, that's their first 2 albums. So which one wins over the other? Well, the number 2 spot, so that way I don't jerk you guys along any further, goes to their sophomore album, This War Is Ours. Again, it came out my senior year of high school, and along with that and the first album, which obviously at this point, you know that's number 1. I do that a lot in these videos. When I'm talking about the number 2 spot, I always allude to what number 1 is. But in this case, it wasn't even close. But This War Is Ours is definitely their second best album. It's not just marginally better than Ungrateful, it's a lot better. Even though Ungrateful is still like way better than their bottom 4 albums. But This War Is Ours is another big jump up. Even though it opens and closes on a weak note, those are my least favorite tracks are the first track, We Won't Back Down, and the last track, It's Just Me. Again, not a fan of that theatrical, I don't know how to describe it, just like that weird genre of like, I'm creeping, I'm crawling, I don't know what the fuck it's called. But anyway, this is their first album with Craig Mabbitt. And he comes out strong here. They got some of their catchiest material on this album. You got some of my favorite songs. You got Ashley. I've always loved that song. I've loved that intro for forever. Here's a single that I kind of didn't love a whole lot back then, but now I do now. It's fucking Something. Something is an excellent song, and it definitely gives me like that mid 2000s alternative sound. Just that, powerful, kind of brooding, emo sounding verses that lead into like a great chorus and then a great guitar solo. Just great intro all around. Ashley, Something, excellent tracks. The Flood is still a pretty cool, catchy song. I remember watching that music video a lot. You got the catchiness of Let It Go, which I've always enjoyed. You Are So Beautiful, just back-to-back powerful choruses and catchy, memorable songs. That leads into This War Is Ours, Guillotine Part 2. Great guitar work, great kind of like metalcore classic actually, but with like a scene twist, because Escape the Fate was just one of those scene bands. I've always enjoyed the ballad Harder Than You Know, that finger picking, really great guitar work there. And 10 Miles Wide, pretty solid vocal feature from, what was his name? I forget his name, but they're in that band Butt Cherry. Sounds pretty solid. And I've always liked the bounciness of On to the Next One. I like those riffs. I saw them live while they were touring this album, and they fucking killed it. So, a lot of great memories to this album. Some of their best materials on here. So, let's just fucking get into it. What's the top spot? It's their first album. Dying Is Your Latest Fashion. Fuck. They wrote their best album first, and they're probably never going to top it. Like, They didn't come close to topping it with This War Is Ours, but that was the closest they got. It's the one album with Ronnie Radke before he went to jail, and then he came back and formed his new band, Falling in Reverse. At least knew at the time. But let's talk about band members. You had their most cohesive lineup to date. The only original member left is Rob on the drums. But if you consider that Escape the Fates, almost their entire body of work has Craig Mabbitt, you could probably call him not an original member, but a longtime member. So, but really all that's left in that band is Craig and Rob. You got different guitar players, different bassists, just, even if they're still good in their own right, just not the same. The Dying Is Your Latest Fashion is one of those albums. It's an album that defines a generation. It's one of the biggest albums of that entire subgenre. I guess, is it post-hardcore? I might have been using the term post-hardcore wrong all these years, but just like that emo but kind of metalcore scene music. Is it? I guess it's. I don't know if it's emo if it's scene. It's fucking MySpace. But anyway, just from front to back, this album is. It's not flawless because it's not like a perfect album. I gave it a 9.1 out of 10, but it's. In a lot of these ranked and reviews that I do, a lot of the band's top album isn't a 9. It's not something that I would personally deem excellent. And these are just my opinions. But, like, Dying Is Your Latest Fashion, while I don't typically listen to that genre of music, that's, like, the best album of that entire subgenre, of that entire culture, that entire scene. From front to back, you got hard-hitting guitars. You got drums that match it perfectly. Very memorable melodies and leads, and hey, even solos. Like, some of his best guitar work is on this album, but you just can't fuck with Ronnie Radke's vocal performance. Every song is catchy and memorable. Like, this album is just, every song has a fucking hook. Like, you feel the sense of urgency and passion in this album. Like, it's not even close. Like, I didn't even think for a second that any of their other 6 albums would beat this one, but when I do a ranked and reviewed, I want to be surprised, or I just want to fucking verify or clarify. Sometimes I know what the top album is going to be, what right out the gate, or what the worst is going to be. But sometimes I have to confirm what the rest of it is, or the albums I hadn't heard yet. Are there any sleeper albums that I might have missed? That's probably happened once or twice on this list, where an album that I slept on might have got the top spot. I don't know. But in this particular case, just all the memories of senior year of high school, other memories with, like, friends and, like, my girlfriend and, like, my fucking band. Like, senior year was just such an incredible year of high school, and this was absolutely one of the anthems, one of the soundtracks to that year. The fucking bridge to The Webs We Weave, the bridge in the intro to Chariot of Fire. When I go out, I want to go out in a Chariot of Fire. Situations, which is one of the catchiest fucking songs of all time, to the point where you probably got the reference I made at the top of the video. My least favorite track, oddly, is Guillotine Part 1, or just the Guillotine. It's just because the weird low vocals to me just sound kind of out of place. That's pretty much it. But it's still a great chorus, still a solid outro, but just the oversaturated low vocals just sound kind of out of place. Reverse This Curse, Cellar Door, the kind of power ballad. I love that song. The There's No Sympathy for the Dead is very good metalcore guitar work. My Apocalypse, just that intro, all the guitar leads, the solo, it's just a fun song. Their best song, though, is on this album. It's Friends and Alibis. The songs that got me into this band were largely Friends and Alibis, Situations, and then a few songs off of This War Is Ours, up until I finally got both full albums. But Friends and Alibis, just that chorus is iconic. Again, memorable verses, lyrics all around, just insanely good bridge that leads into a very heart-wrenching solo. I love simple, well-written guitar solos like that, and just, the not modulated, but just like the echoey chorus being sung in the background. You just really feel the power of that song. And then another one of the catchiest songs of that era, not good enough for the truth and cliche. Another great song in C major, I think. Sounds pretty solid. Is it C major or is it D? Fuck it. And then the closing track, The Day I Left the Womb. Beautiful song. Excellent song. So I've been talking about this album forever. I love it very much. Still to this day. Maybe, I don't know, top 30, maybe top 40 albums of all time. It's just that entire subsection of metal or like rock or whatever you want to call it. That was one of the albums of a generation, and I think that was always going to be their magnum opus, which isn't fair to Craig because Ronnie went off and made another band. But all in all, I really do enjoy Escape the Fate a lot, but their best albums are definitely the ones I just fucking said. Let's review real quick. We have, from least favorite to most favorite, Chemical Warfare, I Am Human, Hate Me, Self-Titled, Ungrateful, This War Is Ours, and of course their best album, No Competition, Dying Is Your Latest Fashion. Top 10 tracks. Technically 5 or 6 of them would be off of Dying Is Your Latest Fashion, but I'm going to limit it to 3 per album. So, top 10 songs, we got Live Fast, Die Beautiful, Desire, Issues, Guillotine Part 2, Something, Massacre, Ashley, Situations, The Webs We Weave, and Friends and Alibis. So, basically, songs off their first 4 albums. Nothing from the other bottom 3. So definitely comment below what you agree or disagree with. How would you rank them differently? Is Dying Is Your Latest Fashion somehow overrated? Fucking elaborate. If you leave a comment, don't just be a troll, or don't just, if you want to give some love, that's fine. But I like substantive comments. If you can take some time, articulate your thoughts, please. I love discussing this shit. Subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be sure to, you'll be sure to catch, will I catch you? I don't know, however it works. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!